Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is a morning update. Recently, the bombshell that is the FinCen files dropped, and it really gave us a look into what these banksters are really up to. Now, we all know from following this case that at the very least, these banksters who were involved with Jeffrey Epstein are corrupt. And then when you take a look at the FinCen files and you understand that what we see here in the Jeffrey Epstein case is happening across the board with the scummiest people in the world, you start to understand just how Jeffrey Epstein, his bipedal serpent friend Ghislaine, and the rest of the trafficking operation was able to conduct business and move funds through these banks. And tonight, we have another article that has to do with the FinCen files. And now, if you remember, it was the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists and BuzzFeed who worked to get these dropped. So, our article tonight is from the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, and the headline is, "Dirty Money has metastasized within the global banking system, a top regulator says." The author of this article is Michael Hudson. New York's top financial regulator says banks and governments have allowed money laundering to metastasize inside the banking system and wrap itself within the guts of financial institutions. Well, there you go, folks. It's not just me telling you that, okay? It's not just, your average bearded moron who happens to be me yelling and screaming about this. The top financial regulator in New York has said that money laundering has metastasized inside the banking system and it's wrapped itself within the guts of the financial institutions. Okay, so what he's saying here is, let me give you an interpretation, a translation. What he's saying here is, it is the lifeblood of the banking system. And we all know it's the truth, right? We all know it's the truth. Every single time we turn around, we see more leaks like the FinCen files or the Panama Papers that expose these people for what they truly are. And yet people still don't want to face the music. People still don't want to turn their ire where it should be directed. In an opinion piece released days after the FinCen files investigation revealed sweeping failures by global banks to stop illicit money flows, Linda A. Lacewell, the superintendent of the New York State Department of Financial Services, acknowledged that insiders have long known that the financial system is awash with trillions of dollars in dirty money. Yeah, that's no shit. I know that my friends that work in the financial sector talk about it all the time. This is not something that is new to us, new information to us, but what's going on now is it's being exposed. It's no longer just somebody on a radio show telling you about it. Now it's tangible. You can go and look at it for yourself. You can see what these investigative journalists have uncovered. And then you can make the decision for yourself. But me personally, my mind is made up. I don't need to see anymore. I've seen the way these banksters feel about us. I've seen the way they operate. And I've seen the destruction they leave in their wake. And I, for one, am sick and tired of being a slave to the fiduciary banking system. Efforts in the United States and other countries to prevent banks from wading through illicit funds largely rely on a system of self-reporting. Financial firms are required to file suspicious activity reports whenever they spot transactions that may be linked to criminal conduct. Now, again, do you really think that a guy like, say, Jess Staley is going to SAR a Jeffrey Epstein transaction that he's involved with? Do you really think that these high-profile people, such as Jess Staley, or insert any other scumbag banker here, can't ham-hand the auditing department? I know when I worked at a sports book and we dealt with SARS, a lot of times it was a ticket writer who was relied on to let us know if it was suspicious or not. And these guys are making 10, 11 bucks an hour, right? They're not trained to spot this stuff. And I'm sure a lot of stuff slid by. But if you think that that's not happening in these banking institutions, if you think that pressure isn't being put on certain people in auditing, or that they don't have somebody in auditing that they know they can slide this shit through, then I don't know what to tell you, folks. And I would not be shocked if these investigations are real and if they're as vast as they tell us they are, if they don't get to the bottom of all of that. But these reports, known in shorthand as SARS, have become a free pass for banks, Lacewell wrote in the op-ed published in Law 360, a legal industry news publication. And I think we'll read that op-ed as well, maybe tomorrow. The International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, BuzzFeed News, and other FinCen Files reporting partners found that big banks often okayed transfers of suspicious money, but didn't report these transactions to regulators until months or years later after the money was long gone, because they wanted their cut. What did Gordon Gekko from Wall Street tell us, right? Greed is good. And when I look at Wall Street and I look at the disgusting people who inhabit it for the most part, I'm talking about on high. These people all remind me of Gordon Gekko. It's all about more money, more power, the consolidation of that power. And they get drunk on it. And then before you know it, they can't have a good time the way you or I have a good time. So they have to move into dirtier, disgusting, more devious shit, like visiting Jeffrey Epstein's Zorro Ranch or going to the island. These people are absolutely corrupted by money, and the banking system is the lifeblood for how these people are able to operate. And not only operate, but really profit from it. I think what this set of articles did is put a spotlight on, is this system working? Lacewell said in an interview on Wednesday with ICIJ. When you create something like, well, here's a form or document you must fill out under certain conditions that can almost generate a false sense of security that I've done what I need to do and everything is fine. And that's part of it. Oh my God, it's so easy to see. It is so easy to see. The whole system was set up just like this, so they can manipulate it just like this. How do you think they run their black wars? How do you think they run these operations that are off the books, where they're torturing people and murdering people and God knows what else? What do you think? Joe Blow, CIA agents going down to the local Wells Fargo and making a transaction? It is so disgusting what is going on here. And then they set this system up where they have the SARS and it gives them the cover. Oh, well, we had the system in place. And on it goes, right? The waves keep crashing. The big fish eats the little fish. And somehow these banksters keep on swimming. Because many big banks process global transactions through their offices and accounts in Manhattan, Lacewell's state agency plays a big role in overseeing their operations and making sure they are working to combat money laundering. Well, Lacewell, we're going to need to do a better job there, ma'am. I appreciate that you're speaking out, at least here. I appreciate that you're taking an interview, but I think that it is very obvious that there is a serious problem going on here. And it's not just one banking institution or two. That would be what you would expect, right? There's always a few bad apples, no matter what the situation is. But when you take a look at this, it's just about every major institution, and probably every major institution. Because the laws are put on the books for these people to be able to navigate those loopholes. It is no different than what Alan Dershowitz does in a courtroom. These people just do it in the boardroom. In July, for example, the agency forced Deutsche Bank to pay $150 million in penalties related to its banking relationships with convicted sexual predator Jeffrey Epstein and with 2 foreign banks involved in money laundering scandals. And so what, though? At the end of the day, right, the money means nothing to Deutsche Bank. $150 million? Please. That is a drop in the bucket to these banksters. So the money penalties mean nothing. Criminal penalties must come down to executives. It is the only way. If you managed Jeffrey Epstein's account and you helped him park money in places where it wasn't going to be taxed and it was going to be washed, you should be held accountable. The institution should also be held accountable. Lacewell told ICIJ that many banks do more than just file SARs with FinCen, and the U.S. Treasury's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, they carefully vet customers and block tainted transactions. Oh yeah, I'm sure, for low-level street drug dealers, or somebody that they might think is a drug dealer or something like that. But if you're a bigwig and you're rolling around with so-called polite society, rubbing your elbows with the Clintons and the Trumps and the Dubins and the Wexners, it does not matter. You're not going to get SAR'd, and even if you do, it's going to be ignored because Uncle Jess Staley said so. But she is concerned that a lack of accountability can distort the risk-reward equation within banks. Individual bankers are rarely held accountable, so money laundering becomes a source of profits, and bank fines become a cost of doing business, Lacewell wrote. When the profits exceed the fines, the business choice is easily corrupted. So you are in charge here, Miss Lacewell. You are in charge of this regulation committee, right? You need to petition the lawmakers to make more stringent and harsher penalties for these people. That way, these bankers who are involved go to prison. The FinCen files include more than 2,100 suspicious activity reports filed by banks and other financial firms within FinCen, the U.S. Department of Treasury's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. BuzzFeed News shared the cache of reports with ICIJ, which organized a team of more than 400 journalists from 110 news organizations in 88 countries to investigate banks and money laundering. This is such important work, folks, especially with our ongoing conversation. And I am very thankful that these courageous journalists, these courageous investigators have taken it upon themselves to dig deep here. We know what happened after the Panama Papers. These sorts of reports and this kind of investigation, they have real life results a lot of times for people. So it's very brave of these journalists, these 400 journalists, to come together and unify to get this story out there to us, the public. Because at the end of the day, we're the ones being robbed, folks. We're the ones being enslaved by their corrupt, predatory financial system. And then, to top it all off, to really shove our noses in it, they run things like a trafficking ring with that very money that they stole from us and used in these incredibly disgusting money laundering operations. The team's investigation revealed that many global banks have continued to profit from suspect transactions even after U.S. authorities fine them for earlier failures to stem flows of dirty money. And it just goes on and on and on. If it's just fines that are coming down the pipe, it's no big deal. It's not going to affect these people. They have all the money that you could possibly imagine. They are the bank, folks. They have all of the money you could possibly imagine. And you could fine them for as much as you'd like. But until we slap stiff penalties on managers of these accounts, their bosses, and above, I'm talking go all the way to the boardroom, then we're going to see this continue to occur. Because it makes money hand over fist for these people. What, you don't think they're getting a couple of points on this money laundering? They're just doing it through the kindness of their hearts? You don't think they're getting a VIG? They most certainly are. So when you hear people talk about follow the money, and you hear people talk about that's how this investigation should be carried out, well, they are right. And folks, what we have here with the FinCen files is a fantastic place to get started. In all, an ICIJ analysis found the documents identified more than 2 trillion, with a T, folks, in transactions between 1999 and 2017 that were flagged by financial institutions' in-house compliance officers as possible money laundering or other criminal activity. Now, my question is this: who told those in-house compliance officers to just pass it through? Did they shoot it up the chain to their superiors? And then what happened? Who deaded it? Who killed it? Who made sure it was DOA? My guess would be whoever the wealth management banker overseeing the overall case is. So, you want to talk about follow the money? Let's really follow the money. I say it all the time. If you follow the money in the streets, you're going to come up to a drug dealer, right? If you follow the money here where we're talking about it, most assuredly you're going to end up in a politician's office or a banker's office. And we all know that the two of them have a parasitic relationship anyway. Because if it wasn't for these scumbags involved in all this money laundering, if it wasn't for all of these sick people who do not care about anything but the consolidation of power and their own financial gain, then we would not have to worry about half of the things we have to worry about on this planet. These people are corrupt, they're criminalistic, and the whole entire banking system, obviously, is corrupt. If you'd like to contact me, you could do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All of the links that go with this episode can be found in the description box. All right, everybody, I'll be back later on. We'll do it all over again.